Yvette.
Hi, nice to meet you, Zach.
Hi. Nice to meet you as well. Even though it's not IRL, I guess, you know. But that's the thing, and I talk about this all the time. Because you do this thing, you feel like you know somebody, you know? Just
Yeah,
because of the shared experience of how hard this goddamn thing is. We all do.
it is hard.
It
Yeah,
is hard.
it's cool because like I guess we're all so connected now.
Yeah,
Like I
exactly.
feel like all of us are just like one person removed from like knowing each other.
You're absolutely right. And because you can talk and sort of, there's a shorthand. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it feels like there's a shorthand in the way you talk and your conversationally, but it also feels like you could get in a room and play with this person and go, no, that part's going to go 4 times, and you know what the person's saying. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I love that. I love that. Uh, how did you get started playing guitar?
Ah, man, it's I'll give you an abridged version. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up super classical, so I was playing classical piano since I was 4, and then I played in 2 orchestras on violin when I learned when I was 7, but orchestra life for me was more like middle school, high school. I was doing it mostly for extracurriculars to apply to college, and it was a thing that like my parents definitely dreamed for me because
Yeah.
they're from like the classical world, and they were like really drilling the whole like classical pianist performing um concerts and things like
Yeah.
that lifestyle on me. And I didn't really, there were parts of it that I enjoyed, but for me it was like a lot of pressure, and combined with like a somewhat troubled home life and everything. Long story short, I got sick with an eating disorder, and I got hospitalized for it. I'd been struggling with it for like 4 years, something like that. And while I was in the hospital, I was required to like stop everything because they wanted to just let me um, recover and not worry about school and extracurriculars and things like that. Um, and it was in the hospital where I was like, I kind of want to learn guitar. So I had
Yeah.
this like Martin acoustic. My parents um, gifted it to me for a birthday, and I had it with me there, and I just started teaching myself um, how to write songs. I learned
Yeah.
a bunch of riffs. I learned like Radiohead and like Creed,
Uh
funnily
huh.
enough. Honestly, sick riffs.
No,
um,
they are. They are good riffs. A
yeah,
good
like
riff's a good
really,
riff.
really good, like Puddle of Mud, um, like
Yeah.
back in the day. And I just started writing my own music, and I feel like teaching myself guitar was probably 90% of the reason why I recovered, because it took my fixation with maybe like my external appearance. I won't get into detail about like what causes anorexia. It's like kind of complicated. It's a control thing at the end of the day.
Well,
It's like an
we share that. I've never really talked about, but
really.
I'm right along with you. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
right
So
along with you. Yeah,
you feel me? It's like a
I
control
definitely do.
thing.
We
It's
smell
on.
our own. Yeah,
Oh yeah. It's like
yeah,
an
yeah.
addictive mindset. It is an addiction at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Um, but I like channeled all of that into guitar, and that became my primary outlet for getting out my emotions, that and painting and drawing. Um, and yeah, I just taught myself, and it restored my relationship with myself, made me feel like I had agency and I had like a voice, because I wasn't the most outspoken. I've always been kind of more like shy
Sure.
and non-assertive. But yeah, then I just started writing music for fun, and just fast forward, I went to UCLA. I studied fine arts and visual performing arts education with the intention of just becoming a full-time art teacher.
Right.
But life had other plans for
Their
me, and
plans.
here
Yeah.
I am, just like giving up a stable job to do this.
Well, that's. I mean, hey, that's the most noble thing I could think of. I mean, I definitely did the same thing. You
Wow.
also do, and that reminds me. I did a little research. You also do the artwork for your album covers, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I get to
So that
use my
explains
art
that. Yeah.
degree. Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Thanks.
And those are great. That's great art too. That's geez, that stuff is so
Thank
cool.
you. That means
Yeah,
a
your new
lot.
album cover is so cool. I mean,
Dude,
they're
thank
all so cool.
you.
Your band is so cool, and it's so different, so
Thanks.
fresh, and so interesting. And it's so hard to do anything new. It's so hard to take from different resources and different bands. And like we were talking before we got on with Joseph Plummer, your podcast here, I heard some influences that you talked about that I thought I heard. I was like,
Hell yeah.
I think she's into post-hardcore, and but to really make it on your own, and to have such an interesting specific voice on the guitar, and that was something I noticed right off. Also, even your guitar choice, and you got rewarded with that with your own Ibanez signature model, and it was like the Tallman. Isn't that the Ibanez Tallman? That's what it is. And
Uh-huh.
I hadn't seen those in a long time, and I thought those were such cool looking guitars. And now you have your own signature model. Did you play that before you got involved with them?
Honestly, I didn't. I'm looking at it right now. I have this SX Telly
Okay.
that I traded my friend Ethan Dillard. He lived in Louisiana and we met on a music forum. I didn't have money. I just had a drum machine. And
Oh wow.
I was like, he was like, can we trade the drum machine for a guitar? I'm like, yeah.
Sure.
So that was my first electric. And I played that for a long time. And then Ibanez approached me and was like, do you want to try this Talman out? I was kind of averse to Ibanez at first because I associated with like metal, like
Sure.
kind of like shred guitars. And I was
Sure.
like, I don't know if I'm like a pointy guitar gal. I'm kind of like
Right.
round,
Yeah,
and they're
I'm a
like,
round guitar person. Yeah,
we
yeah.
got something round and offset for you. I'm
Hmm.
like, cool, and then I loved it.
Yeah, it's a cool looking guitar, and it's also discernible, like because they have single coil pickups, and sometimes, I mean, you guys aren't a metal band, but you are heavy. There are heavy things. Do you find that like the single coil thing voices what you're doing a little bit better than say a humbucker or another pickup choice?
Yeah, I haven't clocked in. Okay, well, I did clock in sometime with humbuckers back in EMG days, and I wasn't like a
Oh yeah,
super fan. Just wait a little bit too compressed. It just to me feels like I need like dynamics. I need to be able
right,
to articulate when I dig in and have it like I work with tube amps and stuff, so I just like want to be able to push my tubes to break up if I just dig in a little more, especially
right.
because I'm exploring like a ton of gain and a ton of like overdrive and just different preamps and stuff on my board. So I
Yeah,
love anything dynamic where I can hold back and have it be sparkly clean and then push it.
sure.
Um, and single coil just does that for me.
Just does it well. How long has that been with your collaboration with Ibanez?
Oh, shoot. I have two signatures now. We're
That's
working
awesome.
on a third one, a
Really?
nice, yeah, prestige version of
Oh
what I have.
shit!
So one for the
Congratulations.
one for the serious guitar
Yeah,
aficionados. But
yeah.
yeah, I think it's been probably like 3 years now, something like that.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's so cool.
Thank you.
And it's good for them. I mean, it's I think it's whoever approached you was doing their homework and realizing that like, oh, this person could be the future of rock guitar, and you know, showing. You're right. Ibanez have kind of pigeonholed themselves in the past as like a metal guitar company, you know. But for reaching out to people like yourself or Tosin Abasi, or they do seem like they're trying to do the work. They keeping their ear a little to the ground and going,
Yeah,
okay, this person is going to have a lengthy career and they're doing something interesting on the guitar. Why don't we work with them
totally.
instead of this guy
Totally.
sweeping arpeggios and like yeah,
Totally. And I think their roster does a really good job of making me feel really welcome. Like Steve's on the roster. They're like he's like the main guy, Steve Vai.
oh yeah,
And then Nita Strauss, she was the first female
oh I
signature
know,
artist.
yeah,
Yeah, and so they both like are super supportive, and I
that's so
feel
cool.
like that's the way to do it. Like it doesn't have to be this like competition. Like there's room for everyone, and I feel like the key to keeping guitar alive is to just keep on passing the torch to people you think are dope. And
I
um,
agree.
I hope one day I get to be in a position to do that.
I
And
agree.
yeah, I was gonna say I like being the weirdo oddball on the roster because I feel like in terms of promo and the way I want to roll out these new signatures and even the choices I make on the signatures, I always kind of just want to do like a really off the cuff thing just
Yeah,
to not try to blend in with everyone else. Cause then like there's so many guitars already that do this like one thing, but I
right.
feel like they like the way I'm thinking is Ibanez can totally grow their brand to not just be like a metal shred thing. Like it can appeal to all kinds of people, all kinds of younger people of all genders and backgrounds and
Yeah,
everything. um
yeah.
so it's just exciting to be able to do
It is
something like
exciting. It's
different.
super because they've had some like I remember in the late '70s they had the artist models, like those. They were almost Gibson-y. They were double cutaway, and they were,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
and like a lot of the punk post punk guys. I remember, and uh, XTC. A lot of people got Andy Gill from Gang of Four was using those, and they were really cool. And then they just, you're right, they really went metal, and now they seem like they're reining it in. Ernie Ball's really doing interesting things as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Totally.
it's a really interesting time for gear right now. I've been talked into the amp profilers and stuff, and at first I was such a luddite. I wanted to throw stones at it, and you're like, oh, it's bullshit. But I mean, when you're flying out to a festival and it
Yes.
and all your shit, it's all in this thing, and it sounds great, and in your ears, and you can't tell
Yeah.
I started not being able to argue against it. I guess.
Yeah.
Are you there, or are you all tubes?
Technology is insane. I feel like maybe everyone had an argument a couple of years ago, but
Yeah.
I have a HX Stomp and a Helix that I think is really dope.
Mm-hmm.
I still I'm about to do this thing where I go to New York and play with an orchestra,
Whoa.
and in my head I was like, oh, I could bring the Helix, but I've been dialing all my tones on my pedal board, and I just
Yeah.
like love pedals. There's something
Yeah.
so cool about seeing like to me it looks like a palette of colors. It is
Yeah.
quite literally a palette of colors. It's so beautiful, and like it's fun to just, I think I know it like the back of my hand. Like if I were to be
Wow.
blindfolded, I could like still tweak things.
Yeah.
So I'm just so used to it. I plan on flying out with the pedal board. However, I have been seduced by the ampless life, especially because I
Yeah.
play an AC30 and I love Vox.
Sure.
Love Vox so much, but it's like tubes are so fickle and like unreliable, and like
Yeah.
they begin to sound a little weird at the end of tour,
They
so
do. And
yeah.
then when you go into like the Kemper profile of the Vox AC30, it sounds exactly like it. I don't know,
Damn it,
man.
I want a Kemper.
I know. And I'll tell you something. The Neural DSP, the Quad Cortex.
Yeah.
So it's a floor unit, and it has 8 switches, and you can program. It's got every amp in the world already in there. Of course, it has a Vox AC30.
Yeah.
It's like what? As soon as I got a Kemper, like I went to Kemper, everybody started using these things, and it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
They're more compact, and you have 8 switches, and you can do any pedal to each one of the switches. But then you can change that pedal board to another, like what I'm saying. So you have 8 switches,
Yeah.
but then you can bank those up so they all change.
Yeah.
I have like a small pedal board,
Yeah.
and it really has every amp in there already. I don't know, man.
It's crazy because it's like I totally see the appeal. I did have one weird experience or on this last tour where I was really grateful that I had an amp on stage. Like a couple of nights, sometimes my in-ears will completely cut out, or something bad will happen, or sometimes monitoring will just be an absolute mess, like if you're depending on wedges, because I assume, like, I guess what is it, if you have like a Kemper, like a HX Stomp or Helix or whatever, you usually have like a cab on stage, right?
Yeah. Usually, I mean, we're kind of we've gone cabless,
Dude, okay, that freaks me out because like the thing that happened to me on tour where monitoring was like dog shit, like terrible, and
Yeah.
I just stood by my amp to be able to hear.
Yeah.
And like I couldn't, there was like a tech issue or something, but that amp on stage saved my life, because at the end of the day I could just go by it and be like,
see, now I haven't really even thought about that. We'll do cabless, and then we'll do cabs. We'll go kind of back and forth, But we did like one tour with a big lighting package, so we just didn't do cabs.
Yeah.
And we were on the Kempers, and it was fine. But even before we did the Kempers, we had our like Marshalls and shit on the side, but no cabs on stage, just no cabs, because we were going direct in. It just went to the ears.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about that. Like if it just goes, I mean, that's just ignorance on my part. Like, what if this goes down? You know what I mean?
Oh no, it's not ignorance. It's just like you haven't had a reason to distrust technology, and I've had like every reason in the world to distrust it. So no, knock on wood, I hope you never have to deal with that. But yeah, I see the appeal of both, and God, I just got an amp over there that I like love a lot, and I would just like, but you can profile it probably, so yeah.
And that's the thing, you can profile like the stuff, everybody kind of profiles their favorite amp, but once I started messing with it, I was like, for me personally, I was kind of like every profile that's already in there that it comes
Yeah.
preloaded with, like every Marshall, every Mesa, every
Yeah.
whatever, every Vox, every Orange, it
Yeah.
already sounds so good. Like, why am I
Damn.
going to go to a studio and capture these, this
Yeah.
one specific amp? I do have a hot rodded old Marshall JMP that I've used forever,
Yeah.
but I went to the 800 profile on the Kemper. I dialed in a little more gain, and it was kind of like, it sounds great.
Yeah. Damn. I'll have to pick your brain about
Yeah,
the quad cortex because
the
I think
quad
they.
cortex is badass.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Yeah.
And it's a small floor unit, and here's the thing. So you you have to have, like, there's like the power amps that are in a pedal form
Yeah.
essentially. Seymour Duncan make one, I think Electro Harmonix make one. You kind of have to add that, but my idea is just to make a pedal board, the quad cortex, maybe a Crybaby because it doesn't have one on there, and then the power amp, and then you're done. That's it. If you wanted to take a
Damn.
cabinet on stage or a 212 or whatever, cool, be it, because you have it
Yeah.
powered, you could power it. But otherwise, that's your pedal board. That's fucking everything.
I think I would still want to have a pedal board because I actually went into, um, I went in with my Helix,
Oh,
and we had a day where it's like everything you do on your pedal board, we're gonna find a way to do on the Helix, and there were a few things that we
couldn't
just
do.
could not replicate. Like I do a lot of like sound effects and like okay, the one I can think of right at the top of my head, DD3 stutter. Like
Oh yeah,
the that thing is you
yeah.
can't really get it on the
No
Helix.
shit.
We tried. It sounded really not accurate, but it was like its own thing, but it wasn't the
Right.
thing that I needed. There's some like pitch divey kind of stuff.
I
I have a Digitech Freakout that I love that makes like the same feedback and pitches it, and like we couldn't really get the Helix to do that either.
I
So
spent I spent hours with the DD3 the other
yeah,
day, just getting that Van Halen perfect one, like just the
yeah,
one note, because he would do all those like runs that would repeat it perfectly, and I was
yeah.
just sitting around here, and I looked up, and it'd been like 3 hours, like, oh
Wow.
shit, I got shit to do.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
addictive.
it is addictive,
But yeah,
but that's why it's this program.
I would still probably travel with my board, but I would
Yeah,
love to not carry around a huge amp because those things
totally.
just crap out.
Well, I tell you, we just did South America, and I did it with a Kemper, but with an analog pedal board, just my regular pedal board with, like,
Cool.
my MXR shit, my Cry, and whatever. I just, I didn't. A lot of people will Kemper their effects and they'll do all that. I think I'm with you. Like, I think I'll probably always still do the analog pedal board because it's so fun to fuck with. Like, but
Yeah,
if I don't want to use this, I'll take it off. You know what I mean?
totally. And I like dancing a little bit. Like it kind of
Totally,
looks. It's like part of the show for me is to like this is how you manually get this sound. Like there's no
totally.
smoke and mirrors. I'm literally tapping in all my delays. So
Totally. And I like that. I like that. A lot of people will like cover their effects or whatever. They don't want people knowing what they're doing or whatever. It's like, I'm not precious about that shit. I think it's
yeah,
interesting.
I
Check it
think
out.
the key to getting like I don't know the key to helping a scene thrive and to keep guitar alive is to not make it this you can't sit with us mysterious thing. It's like I'm
Absolutely.
trying to show everyone it's like you can do this shit at home. I'm not like
Totally.
I want people to be excited about what they hear, see me doing it, and be like, oh, I want to try that, and then go home and try it.
I think that's what's great about your band and what's great about you as a player too, because I think that is palpable. I think that is evident with you. Um, that just watching videos or watching any of your, and you're listening to your interviews and all that stuff, you seem very personable and you seem like you want to introduce people to guitar playing. And that's why I wanted to interview you on this.
Thanks.
Cause like, oh, this is the future of guitar playing right here. That you're doing very innovative, cool, interesting stuff. You have such a specific voice already, which is really, in my opinion, the ultimate mark of a true, interesting musician. To have your own voice, to listen to 1,000 guitar players and go, "Oh, that's Yvette Young." You know what I mean? If you played the
Thanks.
same phrase as Vi or me or whoever else, it's going to be like, "Oh, that's her." I think that's the most interesting thing you could do as a musician.
Thank you.
Um,
That's such a high compliment. I appreciate
absolutely,
that.
absolutely. Well, thank you for doing it. Who are your people? Who is like your biggest guitar influences?
I didn't grow up listening to guitarists.
Mm-hmm.
Like I listened to bands growing up, so I think
That's probably why your stuff is so cool.
oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like I never thought of myself as like um like I am a solo guitar player. I'm more like I like to write riffs, and I think it's so fun to hear them in the context of a band and to
Sure.
try to like tell stories with your the sounds that you're making. And like I almost like everything I write, I'm kind of thinking of like a movie soundtrack or something that I'm
Wow.
trying to write, like, guitar based. But
Sure.
yeah, influences, I mentioned it with Joe, American football. I grew up listening to a lot of like emo stuff like Mineral and Braid, and like
Yeah, yeah.
then I got into Don Caballero, and then
That
I
was one I was going to talk to you about.
oh
That is
yeah.
so cool. You know, it's funny. I was in Guar for a long time, and our
No
Guar,
way.
yeah, uh, I was a kid,
That's
but
sick.
yeah, the drummer. It's a long story. Uh, the drummer for Guar was obsessed with Don Cab and got me into that, and that was like in the '90s and like the late '90s, and oh God, what a great band! And then Trans Am and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, Trans Am
Yeah,
is a big one.
yeah.
um did you ever listen to Farrakhan?
No,
Oh, I loved Farrakhan. Like that was
I
kind of
never.
like
Wow.
I started with like, okay, so I started with like bands like Minus the Bear and American Football, and then I kind of did the research. I was like, what bands maybe led to here, and then I was like, okay, Don Caballero,
Yeah.
Farrakhan, stuff like that, and then I jumped forward, and then there's like a whole like kind of twinkle Midwest emo math rock scene, like bands like Pen Pal,
Yeah.
TTNG. What else? Enemies from Ireland. I was like really into like the UK
Oh
kind of
yeah. Yeah.
math
Yeah.
rock, indie math pop scene. Um, and I also loved post rock at the time. A lot of This Will Destroy You and Caspian and
Mm-hmm.
Mogwai and things like that. I think that post rock really appealed to me because it really made sense given my classical background. I feel
Sure.
like the development of it and the way that it's like dynamically structured is a lot. Um, is very similar to how some classical music unfolds, in
Speaks to that.
particular,
Yeah.
romantic era classical music.
I could see
Yeah.
that. I could see that. You know, it's funny. I also heard that in like Deerhoof, and then realized that drummer has a master's in classical composition, and so
Wow.
that's why it was so complex. You know, and it's so that's interesting. And it's funny. You're right. The Midwest was so rife for such interesting music, or still is, because there's nothing else to fucking do. You know what I mean?
And
I mean,
like, I love
yeah,
anything. I'm an emotional person, I
yeah,
wear my heart on my sleeve. I love anything that makes you feel. So I think for me, a requirement in music I listen to is it has to have like some kind of emotion in
yeah.
it. And I tend to go for something that's more raw. Like some of my favorite guitar solos aren't the nice, polished, perfect ones, but
Sure.
it's like the jangly, like out of time. It just has character and it's so
Yeah.
human. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that for sure.
I love
Did
Pine Grove. That's a band, a current band
yeah.
that I'm like super into.
You know those that uh, as you're saying these influences, it's making a lot of sense. From listening to your own stuff. Was there a specific choice to go instrumental for the most part? I mean, you're like for the most part.
Yeah, I am not um, a particularly extroverted person, and I always
Sure.
had stage fright. And I was when I started the band, I was thinking about a lot of things, especially when I started posting videos online and stuff. Like, number one, I didn't want to have the dialogue around my band be that I'm a girl.
Right.
I don't think it should matter. It's cool because representation matters. I think like it's great to just have women, non-binary people out there like
Sure.
just leading, the charge. But I didn't want it to just be like, look at me, I'm like the front woman of this band. I kind
Right.
of want it so that if you close your eyes and you don't Google what we look like, you can't even tell.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You don't even know there's a girl there. It's just about music. I think I always want to just keep it about music. It's so
Sure.
hard in music to just keep it about music.
It's
But
true though. You're absolutely right, because as soon as you
yeah.
open your mouth, it's
Yeah.
political. And
Yeah.
in some way it's political. It's like, oh, that is a female singing.
Yeah,
And
or
it's
like
like,
my
well,
identity, like people become like what we were talking about before this podcast, people become obsessed
right.
with who you are, and it's like it doesn't,
Hmm.
who cares? Like just listen to the song. Oh my god.
Right. Your
Like
makeup of your past, your everything, what makes you
yeah.
you shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, but people want to know, and I get it cuz curiosity is a natural thing.
Hmm.
The second thing was that I just like I'm really shy, and I didn't I the idea of singing into a mic in front of people at the time freaked me out. But I've
Good
gotten over
answer. That's a good answer.
that.
And it makes sense too because like Don Cab or Trans Am or whatever, we're all instrumental bands as well.
Hmm.
And what's funny is with those bands when it's done right, I, personally, I never missed the vocals. I never
Hmm.
missed the lyrics. I never missed, because like you were saying, it does do something for you emotionally. It
Hmm.
does have an impact, and it does take you on your own journey. Sometimes lyrics and can take you out of that. Lyrics are telling you what this
Totally.
song is about, when otherwise you could have your own experience.
I love that you said that because I always say, um, and when I like, I sometimes teach a camp where I just try to get people to access emotions and convey emotion through just writing a riff and using pedals and stuff. Like I'm just trying to challenge people to not depend so heavily on lyrics. And yeah, I'm with you. Sometimes lyrics can take me out. Sometimes I feel like, oh, a weird voice can also take me out. I'm like,
Yes.
ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, and then I feel like instrumental music is the most empathetic kind of music because
Sure.
it's not telling you how to feel. It's instead listening to you, and whatever you have that you want to get out inside, like the music will kind of just bring out, and then you get to talk to the music. I know this sounds insane, like I'm mental or
No,
something,
it's a
but
great point. That's a
yeah.
great point. I mean, if you're a musical, like you and I are obviously obsessed with music, and is what we do, and all that stuff. So if you live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep it, that makes sense. I've often said on this podcast, I don't do anything else. I don't have a hobby. This is my everything. And so it does speak to me on that visceral level.
Hmm.
And you're right. It can take you, just the slightest thing can take you out of it. It can take it away from you
Yeah,
you know and I've
totally.
with this say somebody with an odd voice, the music will start. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool, that riff is awesome, that guitar tone's rad, and then the voice starts, and if you don't like that voice, man, it's like, oh shit,
Oh yeah, or if the lyrics are like dumb or something
or the lyrics
like
are dumb.
yeah.
Exactly. And I'm not a lyricist.
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
I'll write vocal melodies, but I don't write lyrics. But still,
Yeah.
I'm like the armchair lyricist. Well, like, those fucking lyrics are stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? Maybe I don't have lyrics because I'm playing it safe. Because I'm like, I don't need to say anything.
Well,
Like,
and now you don't. Guess what? Now you don't have to. You don't have to.
yeah, yeah.
You're doing it. You're doing it. Um, I know we don't have a whole lot of time because you have a hard out. But I do ask everybody: did you
Hmm.
ever have one that got away, like a piece of gear, like something that got stolen, or you had to hawk, or you had to get rid of, or?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. Also, I'm good on time. I think I have till 3:30.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay,
I have.
okay.
He just messaged me. Um, I, one that got away. Oh my gosh.
If you have to think about it, you're lucky.
I know, I know. I feel like that's an obvious one.
Did you sell something? Did you get like trade, like you traded something before, like you said?
I did. I've traded stuff before.
Haven't we all?
Uh, shoot. I had an acoustic guitar I really liked. It was just a simple. It was like a Court acoustic, and I liked it, and I loaned it to a student. Um, yeah, it was a weird circumstance for the student, but yeah, I loaned to the
Mm-hmm.
student, and then they like overnight fled the country and took my guitar, and I don't have it
What?
anymore. Yeah.
That's a good story.
Yeah, it's
Oh my
wild.
god.
So I want my guitar back.
Yeah. Hey, if you're listening,
Yeah.
you know who you are.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm on the search for the world's most perfect upright, like old upright piano. I would love to have
Oh.
like a really creaky, gross upright piano with a lot of character that's super ancient.
Yeah. Well, shit, there's those ones in like the cities. You know what I mean? Like they'll be like in the
Hmm.
downtown city. You could just take one of those, cut the chain on it, fuck it.
I know. There's so
Yeah.
many free pianos on Craigslist, and
Just free.
whatever, just free, because people don't want to deal with moving it. So yeah, but it's always, I can't go because then I start to feel FOMO, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Then you got to deal with. So wait, you play piano? You are like
yeah,
a pianist?
yeah, piano is like my main instrument, I think.
No shit.
I started on piano like when I was 4. Piano was the thing. Like my parents were like, "You're gonna become a pianist," and
Wow. Do you think you're better at piano than guitar?
I'm very rusty on piano. I certainly feel more fluent, like, and I feel more comfortable maybe like jamming on.
Sure.
But you know what? I think I've clocked in so much time on guitar that the two are neck and neck right now. Like my
Wow.
piano ability used to be like up here and guitar used to be down here, and now over time it's like
It kind of goes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. How many, like, so in your band, um how, is are those the guys? I mean, I know you've had some lineup changes. Is anyone like some since day one?
No.
Nobody.
Um yeah, it was
It's hard.
it's necessary. It was so necessary given the circumstances of what happened. I think I made the best decision. Like I was going to quit because I hated it.
No shit.
I couldn't
Because of the wrong
stand.
people.
Yeah, it was just
Something you started.
yeah, I write all the music and I write, you know, like it's my thing. I started it.
Yeah.
Uh I yeah, off when we get off this
Let's.
podcast
Yeah.
thing, I can tell you more, but like yeah, it's just I don't want to like start drama or anything, but yeah, it was, I was crying after every show, just like because I didn't want to, I felt like I was just performing, you know, not even
Right.
obviously with my instrument, but like on stage I was miserable. So I didn't want to, I remember seeing front row of like a bunch of happy young girls being like, we love your band, and like we
Yeah.
started a band because we wanted to, you know, be in a band with friends too. And I was just like, wow,
You're
these
like you
people are
don't
not
know.
my friends. Like they
Yeah.
have done stuff, and it's like yeah,
Wow.
I just can't. So i'm
So
i'm
so now
glad.
it's good. Now you're good.
Yeah, going back to why I got into guitar, it's like it was just a damn shame that I felt at a point where the thing that saved my life, that brought me out of anorexia, now became the thing that was making me like almost feel like I was going to fall into it again because of just the people, you know.
Right. Right.
And I was like, I need to keep this little spark I have for music burning. It's now just it's
Sure.
a mere spark. It's about to fizzle out because of, not because I hate music, because it's like I'm in a toxic environment
In a
where
toxic
everything,
relationship. Yeah.
yeah, it's terrible. So I'm like, I got to do something drastic. And even though it's really scary, and I've never really stood up for myself once in my life, I was like,
Yeah.
I got to do something right now. So I did it. And now I feel like, oh my God,
Congratulations.
I can't wait.
Congratulations. That's inspiring. That's inspiring because, you know, as aforementioned, we have a few things in common, and I'm also a person that my I sort of compromise myself right out of situations and relationships because
Yeah.
I want everybody to be happy and I want
Yeah.
everybody to
People
like me and
pleaser.
I want, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, exactly. Like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to be sure. If you feel
Yeah.
that strongly about it, let's do it that way. And you're right, to get it so far gone that it is now ruining the thing that you that 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 is most important to you is awful. And I'm proud of you. That's I mean, not that you need me to be proud of you,
Oh no,
but that's amazing and
it means
congratulations.
it means a lot. Yeah, I knew it would stir up a shitstorm, and I knew that people would be misogynistic and
Of
terrible
course.
and come up with their narrative.
Of
But
course.
hey, at the end of the day, you know, I know my truth, and I know that I am like so excited about music again, and
Absolutely.
I made the right decision. So
Well, it
thank you.
sounds like it with this. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, and it sounds like it with so the new record is the new band.
So there's one song on it that's my new drummer.
Okay.
Bass, wrote the bass parts anyway, but like I just retrack them with
Oh,
a friend, John Button. He killed it. And he also took liberties on parts too. Like
okay.
I would send him suggestions, and then he would come back with something way doper. I'm not a bass player, so
Yeah.
yeah. And the rest of the drums is my old drummer, but
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
definitely plan on writing new stuff. Like I already have maybe like 60% of a new record written.
Right.
But I am changing focus to solo stuff after this album cycle.
Oh,
I
no
feel like
kidding.
I haven't really done my own project for forever. I have a piano album that I have half written, and then I have
Amazing.
like a whole album of solo music with lyrics. Oh, I'm
I was
singing now.
about to ask. I was about to
Ah.
ask. Okay, if it's solo, are you going to
Yeah.
sing?
Yeah. I'm trying to go a little more like accessible, you know, like I've done
Right.
my like emotional dork rock. I say that endearingly. I love it. I'm a dork,
Absolutely.
you know, like
So am I. Yeah.
I've done that, and now I'm just trying to do something a little different. I've been listening to a lot of like electronic stuff and like dance beat stuff, and I just like want to combine guitar with that. So
Amazing. I'm sure whatever it is, it's going to be just great. You have such a
thank
great
you.
ear and such a great, uh, you know, attitude toward everything. I'm sure it's going to come out great. Would you think Covet will just be put on hold at that point, or what do you think?
Do have new Covet music written. I'm in no rush. I think I just want to make one thing that I get annoyed at being in the industry is that like I feel like there's so many, like when you are your own artist writing in your bedroom, DIY in charge of your own release date and stuff, like there's not really any external pressure. Like your
Yeah.
art's done when it's done. You're not really, unless you know you need to put out an album to make money right now, you know, you're
Right.
not really
Right.
tethered to any sort of deadline. But I feel like when everyone else gets involved, when you get tours booked before you even have a record delivered
Tell me
and
about
all
it.
of that, there's just so much that can go wrong if you miss the deadline. So and so many people depend on you for jobs, and it's just a whole lot of pressure. And I'm trying to again go back to basics and be like, I'm in no rush, and I don't want to book any tours until I have all this music written the exact way that I want it. I'm not going to compromise. I feel like this last record I made a lot of compromises because we
Right.
booked recording time before I even finished the record, and we booked a tour for that even
Oh my
before.
God.
It's like,
Right.
why? You know, it doesn't make
Right.
sense. Why should it be this way?
Yeah.
So I think I just learned by doing the wrong. Sometimes we gotta learn by doing the wrong thing.
Absolutely. And the artist is,
Yeah.
it's almost like the artist gets asked last or considered last,
Yes,
you
that's
know?
crazy, right?
Yeah. And when you do speak up, it's almost like, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Oh, you're difficult now. You're just
Right.
being like a
Right.
diva.
Oh,
Okay.
that's so cute. You have like things you want to do with your life, yeah.
Yeah,
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 that's a mouthful too, with like having people that depend on you for their careers and their lives and their
hmm
livelihoods as well. That's when
yeah,
it's heavy. Because for us, it's like it's me and three other guys in a room, and that brass tacks of like I've got a riff and it being fun and let's whatever fuck with this thing. To think that there's however many people depending on the outcome of that, it's really trippy and heady when you sort of start breaking it down.
yeah. It's cool when you have that collaborative thing. I think for me, yeah, it is a lot of pressure to
Mm-hmm.
think like if you were to cancel a thing or cancel a tour or whatever, like you'd be putting a lot of people out of jobs for a while. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
yeah,
And that's fucked, because then it's just like you better keep this thing on the tracks.
yeah. But then I think to myself, like, so what would happen if I like broke my arms and I couldn't do a tour? You know, like,
Yeah.
it's funny. Yeah, I've been just thinking about again keeping that spark.
Yeah.
So at one point it was a burning fire, but you know, shit happens, and then you kind of
Yeah.
get worn down. And I'm just trying to make sure that I'm like keeping this fire alive. And if that means taking a break and taking care of my mental health and taking time to creatively explore and grow, um, so be it.
Good for you. Good for you, because man, a lot of people don't, and they burn out,
Yeah,
or
I'm
they
trying not to
yeah,
do
they
that.
start doing drugs. They start doing that's when you're inside of it like this, you realize, the like drug addictions and
Yeah,
alcoholism and just the escape, because they can't stop. What you just said to a lot of people, they can't make that. It's just like, okay, I'm going to run until the wheels fall off. And
yeah,
they need to escape. They really need to say no. They need to go, I can't do this next one, for my mental
yeah.
health. And I love that narrative is becoming more increasingly something that
Yes.
that is getting talked about. We filled in for Faith No More at a
Cool.
Riot Fest, like 2 years ago at Riot Fest, because Mike Patton, they were supposed to do it, and he called it what it was. He's like, I am taking a mental health break. this is for my mental health. You know, he came out and he said, and I thought that was so important and so interesting for him to say that, because so many people don't, and now it's becoming part of the narrative, and it's becoming something that
Totally.
isn't. It, you know, it's not stigmatized to go, oh, you know, poor baby or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like that's a real fucking thing, and
Yeah.
that does lead to drug abuse. That does lead to death. That does lead to, you know, yeah.
Totally. And it's like you taking care of yourself is artistically productive, because if
I
you're
agree.
dead or you're in like rehab, you're not gonna,
Exactly.
maybe it'll make for good art. Okay, some people think suffering leads to good art. I think that can be true, but also like you have to take time to nurture your, not to sound lame or whatever, but like your soul,
I
you
agree.
know? And for me, all the coolest things happened when I took a break and had time to explore and treat it like I'm like a kid in a candy store, just like following what excites me. Like, do you remember how you felt when you like first started playing with effects and first started
Absolutely.
playing guitar? Like that excitement is what led to probably some of the coolest, most creative things, because you weren't bogged down with like expectation,
Right.
external perception, what people want your art to sound like versus what you're genuinely invested in. What people also don't realize is like the art you're putting out now, you may not even be invested in it because it's probably years old, and you
Yeah.
probably like you have to tour on a record that's been incubating for like years.
Right. People don't
So
realize that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it can be kind of soul sapping. I can't imagine if I had lyrics singing about like, I don't know, just a breakup or something that happened 2 years ago. I'd be like, can I like not sing
Can
about
I
this
not
anymore?
talk
You know,
about that?
like yeah,
And you
and
know,
yeah.
and that goes against my comfort zone. Like, for instance, I went and saw The Cure just like a week
Oh,
ago,
so
and it
cool.
was so cool and it was so great. And they did what you would like what I guess, and maybe you too, would be no nos. So they opened with a slower, brand new song, and it was long. And then the second song was another brand new song. The crowd didn't know, unless they were real fans that had the record, which I didn't. And then a hit, but
Hell
then
yeah.
did not play all their hits. Still played for 2.5 hours and played a lot of new stuff. I mean, Robert Smith did not give a shit that people didn't know this song. They were sitting down. He didn't give a shit. He wanted to play what
Badass.
he wanted to fucking
I
play.
love that.
It was great. And then came back at the encore with a brand new song. You know, he didn't come out with Why Can't I Be You? He didn't come out with Love Cats. He came out with like a new song, you know.
I love that.
I know.
That's it. That's it
Yeah.
right there. The thing is, like, when I said I don't want to be performing or whatever, like, yes, I'm literally performing music, but I also, like, I'm not going to be like a puppet just playing what everyone, like,
Sure.
wants me to do. Like, I think the key to staying in love with what you do is following what excites you, and almost in like a hedonistic way where it's like, yeah, I don't feel like playing any of the old stuff. I'm just gonna play the new stuff that I'm interested in, and I feel like real fans are gonna understand that, and they're gonna want you to be excited about what you do because they want you to make more music.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And it's palpable. It comes out. People can hear that. They're not dumb. You know what I mean?
yeah,
If you're phoning it in, eventually it's gonna come out.
I
You
used to
know.
start a song by saying "fuck this song." It was like I wanted the gang vocal, like "fuck this song,"
And then started to old hardcore song. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Fuck all this. So
Yeah.
wait, that having been said, what is the next tour plans for you?
We have a Japan thing currently. We're also going to do a random off date with like Protest the Hero. I think that show's gonna be so funny because we're gonna be like just like
Mm-hmm.
dancing and happy, and then it's gonna be like really heavy.
Just beat down shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So
How's
we're doing
Oh, go ahead.
go
I'm
with
sorry.
that. Oh no,
How
go for it.
how's Japan for you guys?
I love Japan. I feel like I
It's
got to
great.
go. I actually the first time I went to Japan, I played with orchestra, so I wasn't even playing like
Whoa.
guitar. I was on violin. And yeah, people there just love music and they have deep respect for it. Like shows there are usually, you know, in America there's people at the bar talking and then
Yeah.
like there's people heckling and stuff like that. In Japan everyone's really quiet
And they
and paying
listen.
attention. Yeah,
And then
super
they all clap at
respectful.
the same time and then they stop.
Yeah,
And
and
then they're
it's like
listening.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're listening and they're like just so like aware of boundaries and
Yeah.
respectful. So I'm super excited about that. We have Postfest coming up. I'm so stoked because I think Pelican is playing.
Oh,
I
rad.
love Pelican,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think Pelican. I don't want to misquote that. But yeah, after that, I'm just kind of taking some time off to write. I think
So is tour cycle for this record's kind of over? Like you've done it.
unless something insane comes up, like
Mm-hmm.
a support, I'm done headlining. Like, I don't think we should. We headlined like 3 times in the last year and a half. Like, that's too much. I feel
Yeah,
like it's oversaturated. People, like, I'd get sick of me. Hell, like,
sure,
I don't want.
sure.
I think people don't want to
Yeah.
see that. But yeah, unless a crazy support tour comes up, I think I'm just gonna lay low.
That's the thing. It's like that's an interesting thing you just said because it's like we do get sick of ourselves. We get sick of our set. We get sick of the same songs. We get sick of the thing. And you're on this long ass tour and you're playing this song that you've played every night for 20 years, whatever long, and but still it's somebody out there's first time seeing your band and you're their favorite band and all they want to do is hear you play that song,
Yeah,
and I always forget that. I've been doing this shit 30 years. I still forget it. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
still just like, oh man. And
Do you
I
go
don't,
to shows?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, not as much as I'd like to, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten to a point where even venues give me anxiety. And I'm like
That's,
dissecting it. Like, I'm like, okay, so like they're, the set time is probably this,
uh-huh.
and like they're gonna like, I don't want to be annoying and linger because I know how it feels to be in a green room when you have to play and there's like 6 people there talking your ear off. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
It ruins that
anxiety.
experience for us, doesn't it? When
Yeah,
you're on
it
the other side of
demystifies
it,
it.
it
Yeah,
totally does. As a
yeah.
fan going to see it, it's like, yeah, you can't not think about all that shit. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You can't not
Totally.
do it.
That's why I asked you if you go to shows, because I'm like, oh, I feel like the only shows I go to are bands like that I don't like, not even in my genre, like.
Yeah, bands I don't know, like going to the Cure. I went
Hmm.
and went, floor seats and all that shit. And I like to go experience things like that. If it's somebody like a friend of mine and stuff, I'll go and hang out with them. And
Yeah,
even if I love their band, I still just kind of I might stay for a song or two and then I fuck off just because,
totally.
you know, I I know what it's like. Me and our drummer were talking about this the other day. Even the infinitesimal sort of nothingness, the like
Yeah,
being backstage and not even talking, but hang with your people. That's
yeah,
part of it to me. And when somebody
yeah,
comes into the dressing room, hey man, like the dude from that town that we know that was in a band that we
yeah.
took on tour years ago, whatever. It's like,
Yeah,
oh hey buddy, and whatever. And it
yeah,
takes me out of it. It's all the part of the
totally.
process, and I don't want to be that guy to any other band because I
Yeah.
assume everybody's like that. Yeah.
Yeah, when I started out touring, I used to invite people out. I'm at a point where I don't tell my friends I'm in town and I don't invite anyone to the show. And it's not because I don't like you. It's because I actually like you so much that the idea of me diluting myself to and like giving you a half-assed husk
Mm-hmm.
of a version of myself where I'm like at work technically, but I'm having to like socially be on to entertain you. I don't want to
Totally.
give you that. I don't want to bullshit you. I'd rather like do my job, leave town, and then after tour, I'd be like, "Hey, I miss you. Let's call," or like, "Oh, I'll
Yeah,
come visit and like hang out with you."
and give you
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
Rather than this version of me. Now that's a great way to put that,
Totally.
and that's totally true. And I completely sympathize with that. Yeah,
Introvert over here. I admire people who can go play a show and then party with their friends and like, I'm trying to sleep.
I'm not going to do that shit. And I am by all means, I am an extrovert. I will fucking talk and hang out and
That's great.
tell hold court and tell stories and all that shit. I think it's the Texas thing, where you're just big personality and all that. But
Hmm.
but I still have that like it really upsets me when somebody comes into our little zone and I'm trying to like stay focused and get them. It's so dumb.
Totally.
Maybe it's also I just have too many hangups. Maybe that's it.
No,
Um,
it's true. You have to protect, like, in order to go on stage, you have to be in a certain frame of mind and a mindset. And if you go in any mindset that isn't like one of peace, like you can ruin your whole set.
I agree.
And you have
I
one
agree.
job, and it's to play a good set.
It's one job. It's just one
Yeah.
job. Yeah. Well, I won't keep you much longer, but I will say thank you so much for taking the time to
Yeah,
do this.
totally.
Yeah, and everybody, I guess you guys aren't touring, but you will be playing some random shows, so everybody should be looking out for those and looking for what you're doing very soon. Congratulations! I can't wait to hear
I'm
it.
stoked.
You
Yeah,
should be.
I guess in terms of shows, in a week I'll be playing with the symphony in New York, so that's a cool
Amazing.
thing.
No shit.
I said yes to it without any idea. Like, I didn't know how I was going to do it. It was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I like, I'm just trying to figure it out. But now it's actually coming to fruition. I'm going to like practice and
So it's just
gonna,
electric guitar with an orchestra.
yeah.
Wow. Is it
for two
Covet songs? Is
nights.
it your songs?
No, I wrote 3 movements, just with a string ensemble in mind. So I am playing like I jokingly call it like a Midwest emo orchestra with like yeah, I wanted to do like 3 different moods. So the first one's kind of like ambient, post rocky, and the middle one's like more traditional, like Midwesty sounding stuff, and then the last one's just kind of heavy, like almost
Whoa,
like yeah. I
that's
It's
so
gonna be fun.
goddamn impressive. Holy
Thanks.
shit.
I
I
got
wish
to
I could see
combine.
that.
If you want to fly to New York, no pressure.
Right.
But
I,
yeah,
goddamn. Well, I will definitely Google that shit. That
I think it'll
sounds,
be on YouTube at least. So
yeah. That's also,
pressure
that's
on.
the blessing and the curse of YouTube, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, like, I think I fucked
totally.
up that part. Then you go to YouTube
Oh my
at that
god.
night and you're like, yep, I fucked that part up, you know?
I don't know if you notice this phenomenon, but I feel like without fail, every single time someone takes a video, it's always the part that I like fucked up really bad. Like it's
Always.
always.
Always. And it's the thing that you know you fucked up and you kind of forgot about it. And then you're like, oh, God, I did.
Yeah, I don't
You know?
watch any YouTube performance because I'm just like it's gonna bum me out.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good policy. That's a good policy.
yeah.
Man, talking to you, I just realized I was as self-aware and focused as you are ever. like, like everything you're saying, like even that, I'm like, man, that's poignant. That's totally true. Anyway, yeah,
This has been a blast, and it's been
yeah.
really cool even learning about you and your background too. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you so much. Well, I will talk to you soon, and everybody go check out Yvette Young with solo, or with her band Covet. Talk to you
Thank
soon,
you.
Yvette. Bye.
Take care.